Now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
All right, he is Bob Inglis. He's former Congressman Bob Inglis, and he's with republicen.org. We're talking about, of course, climate control from a conservative point of view, correct?
That's right. Yes, great to be with you, Rhett.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us. You live down in Florida and you live in South Carolina, both, right?
Well, no, I live in South Carolina, but I visit Florida a lot.
Okay.
And I was just there and coming back next month because Florida is one of our target states where we really think that climate impacts are being felt, but also that conservatives could get in on the conversation.
Well, I think it's time conservatives did get into the conversation, because anytime I talk about ecology or something, I feel like I'm a spy in the camp or something. And I think there are those of us that do feel we have to be a good steward of Mother Earth that the good Lord above has given us, right?
Exactly. That's the point that we make at republicen.org. And, I think that there's a reason why people right of center don't feel comfortable in the conversation, and that is the climate conversation in particular has been conducted in the language of the left. It's basically we need to do with less, we need to walk and eat bugs. That's not what we say at republicen.org. We say, no, this is more energy, more mobility, more freedom.
Yeah.
It's just going to be better and faster and cheaper and cleaner if we do it right. And and we think the right way to do it is through free enterprise.
Well, you're a good, calm, intelligent voice for this. So I'm glad you've somehow fallen into this for us.
Yeah, well, the somehow is, my first 6 years in Congress, I said that climate change was nonsense. I didn't know anything about it except that Al Gore was for it, and therefore I was
and made $100 million talking about it, right?
Yeah, and okay, that is pretty ignorant of me to just base it on he's for it, I'm against it. But that's the way it was my first 6 years in Congress. I was out 6 years doing commercial real estate law again in Greenville, South Carolina. I had the opportunity to run for the same seat again in 2004. Our son was turning 18 that year, voting for the first time, came to me and said, "Dad, I'll vote for you, but you're going to clean up your act on the environment." His 4 sisters agreed, his mother agreed. New constituency, Rhett. You got to respond to those people. And so that was step 1 of a 3-step metamorphosis.
So collectively, they came after Dad.
Exactly. Yeah. And step 2 is going to Antarctica with the science committee and seeing the evidence. And then step 3 was another science committee trip and really something of a spiritual awakening at the Great Barrier Reef with an Aussie climate scientist who I could tell was worshiping God in what he was showing me. So later I had a chance to talk, and he told me about conservation changes he was making in his life to love God and love people. People come after us. It's basically what you just mentioned, Rhett, caring for the creation. And so I got right inspired. I wanted to be like Scott, who's now become a very dear friend. I wanted to be like him, loving God and loving people. So I came home and introduced the Raise Wages, Cut Carbon Act of 2009. Probably not the best timing to introduce a carbon tax, even though it was paired with a reduction in other taxes, so there's no growth of government, and it was applied to imports. Still not the best time to be talking those things in the Great Recession, So I got tossed out for that and some other heresies. And at that point, a foundation came to me and said, Inglis, unusual zoo animal you are, an actual conservative who says climate change is real. Will you speak and write for the proposition? So now that's what I'm doing ever since.
That was very, very wise of them to embrace you.
What's that?
That was very wise of them to embrace you. Well, a conservative voice,
I'm very appreciative of that because it does give the opportunity. The most you can hope for in a career is something big enough to be about. And I loved being in Congress because that's what it was. It's full of mission and purpose. But this also has mission and purpose. So I'm very glad for the opportunity to basically go around and talk to conservatives. That's what we want to do. We want to reach conservatives on climate, have them hear it in their own language, not the language of the left, but the language right of center, which is that free enterprise can fix this.
Oh, well, I'm happy you're there doing this. Now, tell us about republicen.org. What exactly is republicen.org?
It's about 10,000 people online. We need probably a 0 or 2 on the end of that number.
Yeah.
That requires probably a 0 or 2 on the end of our budget. But anyway, we need to grow that number. It's people who care about climate. They're conservatives who care about climate. We say to progressives, if you're progressive, don't join us because we want to be an authentically conservative outfit, but do share us with your friends who are conservative and your family members who are conservative. But so it's conservatives who care about climate who say that, you know what, it's inherently conservative to be into conservation. It's inherently conservative to pay attention to the risk of climate change and to try to avoid that risk. In fact, the most liberal thing I can think of is just proceeding pell-mell in the face of the risk, and so conservatives are usually people that say, no, let's be careful here. And it's a personality thing as well as a political thing for conservatives. So we think that the problem is that conservatives, in addition to not hearing their own language, have a very undeserved inferiority complex. They just think they're no good at this. And so when the topic comes up, they shrink in science denial or go off on some other thing because they don't think they've got anything to say. But we think they've got everything to say. They know the answer. It's basically put all the cost in on all the fuels, eliminate all the subsidies, watch the free enterprise system deliver innovation. And of course, we conservatives love to criticize EV credits and things like that and those kind of subsidies. Yeah, we're at republican.org. We could say, yeah, eliminate all those, but also eliminate the biggest subsidy of them all, which is being able to belch and burn into the trash dump of the sky without paying a tipping fee, without paying for the damages caused there. Every city and county in Florida has a tipping fee at the trash dump. If I'm a trash hauler, Inglis trash hauling, and I take my truck to any dump in Florida today, they're going to charge me based on the weight of the stuff I'm bringing into that dump. Rightly so, because otherwise the taxpayers of that town or city, or that town or county, are going to have to build a new dump when Inglis trash hauling fills it up. And so it just makes sense to pay as you go. It's a user fee. And so that's basically the concept that we talk about, is that we get to dump into the trash dump of the sky as though there's no tomorrow, just dump all you want. Well, no, what we've found out is there's a limit to how much you can dump up there. And so you start pricing it, particularly if you pair it with a reduction in existing taxes, so there's no growth of government, and apply it to imports, then you can get the whole world in on this thing.
Which we need to do because many countries, China, whoever, are just dumping lots of garbage into the oceans. And we've got, every week you see pictures of a whale that's caught, that's stuck in a net, and the divers go down, try to clip it, and some are saved, some are not. Dolphins, et cetera, and that's just the sea. And I think now,
it's so true, and that's of course what's happening in the air too, and that's what we find, Rhett, is that's the current challenge for conservatives as well. I mean, I've mentioned that the wrong language. I've mentioned that the undeserved inferiority complex, but another thing is the legitimate question, which comes up most often among conservatives, which is how you get the world in on this thing, because that's why it's such a devilish problem, this climate change thing, because emissions anywhere are climate change everywhere. So you got to get the whole world in on it. And we think there's a way to do that. It's basically to say to China, yeah, we buy your stuff at Walmart. It's just we're going to apply a carbon tax at our borders for the emissions that you caused in making that stuff. Oh, you don't like that? Well, do your own. If you do your own, then we won't, in the border adjustment, it's called, we won't be applying our tax to your stuff. So it would make it in their interest to follow our lead. And if they do follow our lead, the whole world follows. Because if you're doing business anywhere in the world, you're doing business with America and China. And so then 8 billion people start seeing the true cost of burning fossil fuels. It's built into the price of everything. Here in America, like I say, we want to cut your taxes somewhere else so you can afford that. And we think that's the appropriate conservative thing to do. But it makes it so the world sees its interest to do the same thing that we're doing.
Well, it's dangerous when profit blinds people's eyes, and they don't want to embrace this. And you're right, because now they have machinery that's been. I mean, I only know this, like very superficially, but they have new equipment that can go out and they're collecting the garbage in the ocean. And so we're making inroads, but very slowly. Now it's time for the conservatives to jump in. But you're right with the language, because of the abuse that we took and how it was manipulated. It's kind of like our justice system. Some of us might think is being manipulated and used for ill gain at this point, and so we tend to be jump ship emotionally, or a knee-jerk reaction, and throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's surely what I was doing in my first 6 years in Congress about climate change, because Al Gore's for it, I'm against it, like you
What
said.
changed? What happened to you, though? There must have been something specific that made you open up your eyes here and go, wait a second, there's some credibility here in this area anyway.
Well, it really was those three things: is my son, the love of my son, and my four daughters saying, really, come on, Dad, you can be better than you were before.
Yeah, but they're young. They could be emotional. When I was 18, I was a member of Students for a Democratic Society. We wanted to take over Washington, D.C. I went to Woodstock. I was part of that whole thing. Thank God we didn't get charged or anything. And some people wanted to buy guns and get ammo and, subvert the U.S. government. And, I was a Student for a Democratic Society, and they were really a subversive organization, as it turned out, not just a nice political group. We used to meet on Vassar campus, and we had protests and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
So you grew up.
Well, you know what they say. If you're not a liberal when you're young, you haven't got a heart. And if you're not conservative when you're older, you haven't got a brain. But
it's true, I think.
But what's wrong with a marriage of both?
Yeah. So, but it is, one thing that I can tell you to answer your question is that, is in that second step, the trip to Antarctica, there was this scientist, and this shows how complicated we are as human beings, right? This scientist, very famous scientist at the University of Southern California named Donald Manahan, he was talking to us, and John McCain would ask a question. This was at the McMurdo station in Antarctica. John McCain would ask a question at the postdoc level, and then my question from the GED level. And this great scientist was able to go that whole range. He could come down to where I was without condescension. That's what I find is, if somebody really knows their stuff, they can do the whole range, but if they sort of really don't know their stuff, they say, just stick in my one little range here. But anyway.
Well, like I said before, like you, for instance, you're delivering all this today. I don't know you. We've never met before, as far as I know, right? But you have a very calm, gentle way of delivering this, which makes you go, oh. If you haven't, your feathers kind of go down and go, okay, well, let's listen to this fella. The Bible even says a soft answer turneth away wrath, and it takes the wind out of the sails. Have you ever had somebody yelling at you? I remember one time years ago, I came to know Christ at the age of 29, and then I remember reading that, and some guy who was a client was yelling at me, and I just stood there, and I let him yell, and then if you don't return that, it takes the wind out of their sails. They calm down and let's talk. And you have a very calm way about you. So maybe God and man have chosen the right guy to deliver this message to the conservatives.
Well, I hope so. And the good news is there are others that can do the same. But it's also, I think you're right. It's like, what you can say when somebody has popped off like that is, I've heard this great advice to say, now then, you've said it.
Embrace it. Now then, you've said it.
Yeah.
I've heard you now.
Yeah, exactly. But what this scientist at the McMurdo, what he told me something very interesting. He said, I got to go call my mother. And his mother was an aging very famous Irish actress.
Hmm.
And it's hard to call somebody from Antarctica. You got to go find somebody with a satellite phone and beg them for a couple of minutes. And so this is what's really strange, Rhett. The fact that he needed to go call his mother made me, a disputer of climate change, more able to hear his science because I had an aging and ailing mother at the time. And the fact that he loved his mother made me more inclined to hear his science. I know that sounds irrational, but thank goodness that's the way we are as humans. We are not like computers, on, off switches. That's what a computer is. We're way more complex than that. And the fact that he was a human being who cared for his mother made me able to hear his science more. And
Well,
so
people,
that was also part of this change for me.
people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. Perhaps Donald Trump would have been reelected if he didn't have that abrasive side to him, because it makes it very easy for people to take umbrage, and they want to know that you care,
Yeah.
first and foremost. Otherwise, you lose validity. Now, the left side has had this image. I can remember my grandfather in New York City. He was a world traveler, built roads in Philippines and stuff, and he said, "Look, my heart is with the Democrats." My pocketbook is with the conservatives. But I have to tell you, the left has left the heart side. It's a whole lot of vitriol, a whole lot of anger, a whole lot of knee jerking, and actually nastiness and un-American. They're trying to muzzle anybody that disagrees. They only want to have argument to have you agree with them, instead of giving up any territory that might sway them. And so we become, well, I would say paralyzed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think it's a real problem. It's basically we've got extremes on left and right,
Yeah.
and they need each other, but
Yes.
they're really hurting the country.
Yeah.
The best thing that happens to somebody way left is somebody way right pops off. And vice versa. The best thing, in other words, they really do need each other,
Hmm.
and they should support one another. AOC should say, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I love you. Because everything that Marjorie Taylor Greene says, AOC says the opposite, and so the both
Well,
of them raise more money
I don't.
off of each other.
I know, but she ruffles my feathers. She's too, going against the spokesperson there for the Senate now. What's his name?
Oh,
the
Senator McConnell, or no?
no, no, not McConnell. I didn't like McConnell that much. I had him on my show. The guy who's in charge now of the Senate, the spokesperson. No, my mind's not working.
Oh, you're talking about Mike Johnson,
Yes,
Speaker,
yes, yes. Speaker of the
Speaker
House.
of the House. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. She's.
I like him. I just liked intuitively. That guy. I think he's a winner. And her going off on him, and then I see the way you don't. There again, see, people don't care how much you care. Don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. She's turned me off with her abrasiveness. Even the Bible says a soft and tender countenance in a woman is of great value in the eyes of God. Now that's not a demotion. It's just that is the makeup that we're made to. And my mother said, I don't want emancipation. I want to maintain my I don't want equality. I want to maintain my superiority. Now we laugh at that, but you know what? With the Jews, if the mother dies, the Hasidic Jews take the children out of the house and they're not allowed back into it until he has a mother figure living in the house. That's how important the mother is to the center of the household. The father may be the priest of the household, but the woman is the heart, the center of the household. So it's okay to be feminine and kind and gentle and still get your point across. Does she turn you off? I don't know. Maybe it won't say so, but Marjorie Green Taylor.
I think that it's true that this is why another thing that we find at republican.org about reaching out to conservatives on climate is too often on the left the language assumes sort of belief in godless evolution, and they're more evangelistic about that than Billy Graham ever thought to be. Billy Graham would say, the buses will wait, and then we're going to sing all 18 verses of Just As I Am, right? But what happens left of center and in the extreme left of center is they're going to sing all 18 verses of "I Just Evolved," and you got to come up front and sign up for that, really. And so they don't realize how disparaging they are to people of faith. You know, my friend Catherine Hayhoe, who's a Christian climate scientist, married to an evangelical pastor, she says, you know, people don't want to change their religion in order to solve climate change, and we don't have a new religion called climate change. We just need to claim, for those people who believe in biblical teachings, to embrace those teachings and realize the dignity of human beings as co-creators with God and stewards of the creation. And so it's sort of like what you're talking about. You don't need to sort of push that out and sort of go as the extremes on the left are trying to cancel all of that. It's rather to say, no, let people celebrate that. Even if you don't believe it left of center, celebrate it if you want to come together and solve climate change. Because the good news is, really, there is a path forward where we can agree, whether, you know, and I'll substantiate that statement. You know, I know that Art Laffer, Ronald Reagan's economics advisor, a member of the Laffer curve, which is if you cut taxes, the government actually gets more money. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Art's a friend, and I know this from him directly. He's been over to Al Gore's house, who is literally one of his neighbors. They talked it through, and they came to the conclusion that what we talk about at republicen.org works for both of them. Al Gore, because he dramatically wants to reduce emissions. Art, because he says, reduce taxes on income. Whatever you do, tax something else. He says emissions will do. And so you can go to our website, republicen.org, and you can see a 2-minute clip of Art Laffer talking with me about that. And so what we believe very strongly at republicen.org, if Art Laffer and Al Gore can agree, we really can bring America together and lead the world to solutions on climate change. But we do have to sort of get away from the extremes in both parties. We got to get away from the people that are trying to cancel anybody that's talking the way that you and I are right now, Rhett. And we got to get away from the people who just want to fight the other side as though they want to destroy them. Really, they're not our enemies. They're our compatriots. They're our countrymen. They're often wrong, but let's not try to slay them. Okay, it's probably not appropriate to talk that way.
Now, listen, we are out of time for today, but I certainly am impressed with you. Like I said, I really love your tone. I love your delivery. And I sure would like to continue this conversation. I'm sorry that I missed meeting you face-to-face in South Florida. I hope we can arrange that maybe at the end of the summer or something. But during the summer, if you want to do more of these Zoom calls, I'll be up in Vermont for most of the summer. So I will be doing only Zoom. But I'd like to find out more about you and your agenda. And if there was one message you want to get out before we say goodbye today, I presume it's you want people to visit republicen.org.
Yes, we'd love for them to come check us out. And if they're conservatives who care about climate change, join us. It takes only about 45 seconds. We just need your email address and zip code because we want to help you be visible and audible to your member of Congress and to your 2 senators. So, yes, and Rhett, I'd love to talk again. It's been a great fun here today, and so I'll look forward to doing it again.
Well, I need to learn a whole lot more about it. Can you make sure that you get my personal cell number so you can connect with me, text me, or connect with me somehow?
I've got it.
Okay.
So I'm going to be in touch.
Okay,
yeah.
That's the 7777 number. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Bob Inglis, former congressman, and republicen.org. And thanks for still caring, and thanks for listening to your sons and daughters and wife. God bless you all.
Thanks so much.